Two teams with 0 losses under their belt. Who will come out on the right end? It was certainly a game to watch. Welcome back to Penn State Sports Night. I'm Mariah Elizondo, joined alongside Cailey, Thalman, and Jackson Tortone. Penn State football traveled to Columbus, Ohio, where they played number 3 ranked Ohio State this past Saturday. Penn State was looking to make the biggest upset of the season, but was unable to do so when Ohio State picked it up a little after halftime, playing like the number 3 team that they are. It was Penn State's first loss of the season, ending the score 20-12. In AP poll rankings, Penn State has dropped from number 7 to number 10. We have a lot to talk about, so let's get into it. Cailey, I'll start with you. Penn State put on a defensive pressure on the Buckeyes all afternoon. But as for the offense, I was shocked to say the least. But tell me, what do you think went wrong?
I mean, what didn't go wrong for the Nittany Lions, to be completely honest? I'm going to start from a play calling perspective. The decision to pass the ball on 3rd and 1 and to run the ball on 3rd and 7 baffles me to be completely honest. It just didn't seem smart at the time, especially with the way that quarterback Drew Aller was playing. Also, the decision to go for it on 4th and 3 with a lot of time left in the 4th quarter and a defense playing as well as Penn State's defense was playing. That didn't make a whole lot of sense to me either, given that Penn State was only down by 7 points at the time. So play calling was a little iffy throughout the game. Quarterback Drew Aller for Penn State just looked nervous, to be honest. It was his first big game of the season, his first big game as a starting quarterback, period, and it showed. He could not complete a pass, honestly, to save his life. Granted, that brings me to the wide receivers. The wide receivers were not getting any separation. Now, Penn State is a team that does not have a star wide receiver like Ohio State does in Marvin Harrison Jr., and that was evident in this game on Saturday. Because
it was the difference, yes.
It really was, because Penn State quarterback Drew Aller did not have someone to play the ball to when he was in tight coverage like that. And finally, I'm going to talk about the running backs. They combined for under 50 yards all game. I mean, at the beginning, Singleton got a couple of breakout rushes of 10-plus yards, and it seems like maybe this will be Nicholas Singleton's game of the year, where he was going to break out a lot of explosive plays, and then it just stopped. And Penn State did nothing to kind of work around that. So there were a number of things that went wrong. Honestly, Ohio State, just from an offensive perspective, was the way better team, but Penn State had the opportunity to win this game and just did not come through with that.
I agree. The offense looked like a high school team out there. It was terrible. The O-line did not do great. Aller was sacked 4 times. He finished with under 200 yards, and I think a big part of that was the O-line having the pressure, getting his face the entire game. And I mean, yeah, receivers weren't getting open, as you mentioned. Not a great performance from the running back duo. And maybe the worst part of this game was actually something that happened to the defense. Chop Robinson, excellent defensive player for Penn State, goes down in the 2nd quarter, looks like a head injury. This was bad for this game and also for the future of Penn State this season, maybe even beyond. It looked like a serious injury, and I'm worried about it for sure.
Me too.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree with you both there. I mean, Penn State was only able to respond with field goals, and they recorded their first touchdown with only 29 seconds left in the game.
Complete garbage time.
Yeah, definitely. But Jackson, let's start with you this time. What went right for Penn State? What were the bright spots?
So the bright spots really were everything except for the offense. I mean, special teams made a couple of nice plays. I think defense played incredible. That was the definition of amazing Big Ten defense, run by Manny Diaz here. And the defense has been amazing all year. And I mean, they only gave up 20 points to Ohio State, and one of them was, a touchdown at the end. Marvin Harrison Jr. It happens, but I felt bad for them because of how bad the offense performed. It could not justify that amazing defensive performance. So yeah, the defense looked incredible, and I don't see that changing. But the offense will need to change if they want to see a change in the record of the team.
Look, Jackson, the defense kept Penn State in that game for as long as they were, only giving up 20 points to Ohio State. And for a long time, it was fewer than 20 points. It was 13 points. And that was, like you said, a spectacular defensive performance, despite the absence of Chop Robinson, who has been so good for the Nittany Lions all season. That was a really tough loss, because I think had he stayed in that game, maybe we could have seen a forced fumble or more pressure being put on Kyle McCord. But because he wasn't there, I think the DN struggled a little bit in terms of attacking Kyle McCord on Ohio State. But that being said, another player that I think had a standout performance, Daquan Hardy. I mean, come on. Yeah. For Penn State, I don't know if he's eating something different for breakfast every morning or what's gotten into him
the Buckeyes,
the past couple of games because he had 3 pass breakups really early on in that game. He made multiple tackles, and also the game before that against UMass, he returned 2 punts for a touchdown, which has never been done before in Penn State's history. So although the offensive performance for Penn State was nothing to report about, the defensive performance was exceptional.
Yeah, again, both very good points. I mean, people that I actually pointed out, huge playmakers, I don't know if you guys noticed, but linebackers, Curtis Jacob and Abdul Carter had 9 tackles apiece. But I mean, back to you, Cailey. What are your future predictions following the loss after this weekend?
I mean, it's going to be hard for Penn State to get back into playoff conversation. I would say it is grazing the fingertips, if not out of reach. Right now, I think a realistic prediction for the future for Penn State is a 10-2 season with a loss to Michigan, because I think in terms of Indiana, Rutgers, Michigan State, and Maryland, those are all very beatable teams for the Nittany Lions. But when it comes to Michigan, they are such a powerful team on all sides of the ball.
Probably the best team in the country right now.
I would agree with you on that. And I don't know. I mean, home advantage, that game is at Beaver Stadium, which Penn State's home advantage is huge because of just how loud Beaver Stadium is. But I'm not sure that's going to be enough. If they want to beat Michigan, which if they do beat Michigan, that would still put them in the conversation. They actually have the tiebreak right now for the Big Ten championship and then in the conversation for playoffs. But to beat Michigan, the defense is going to have to play like they did, if not better, to force maybe a defensive touchdown. And the offense is going to have to entirely turn their performance around. I don't know if either of you saw Drew Aller's press conference following the Ohio State game, but he was visibly distraught. And I hope for Penn State's sake that this is a revenge tour for Drew Aller, because he is a great quarterback. We've seen that proven on multiple occasions. And to beat Michigan, Drew Aller is going to have to be at his best.
100%. And that press conference really showed that he loves his teammates. He wants to win, and he felt bad for his mistakes in that game. Now, my prediction for the rest of the year, realistically, is probably 10-2. I say floor is 9-3. You might see a loss to Maryland. I wouldn't think so, but it is a possibility. And 11-1 is still in range, because obviously, like you said, Beaver Stadium is probably the best home environment in college football, and Michigan does have a bad history at Beaver Stadium. McCarthy might have a bad history at Beaver Stadium, but the most likely record would probably be 10-2. And I think that 10-2 will stay in range if the running back duo stays hot. I think that, if Aller stays the way he is, it goes 10-2, but if he steps it up, 11-1 is much more likely.
Yeah, again, both very good points. Well, that's all we have for this edition of Penn State Sports Night. What does the future of Penn State football look like after a tough loss? Will we see changes from the offense, or does Penn State even have a chance of defeating their next biggest competitor, Michigan? For Cailey, Thalman, and Jackson Tortone, I'm Mariah Elizondo, and we'll see you next week.
Hey everybody, thanks for tuning into this edition of Penn State Sports Night.
For more content like this, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, give us a like, and follow our socials down below.
And as always, we are
Penn State Sports Night.